All right, 97.7 Outlaw Radio FM listeners, we are live with the one and only, the legendary Suga-T. How you doing this evening?
Hey, what's cracking? I'm good.
I'm doing pretty good as well. I gotta ask, how's everything on your end? Because I know 2020 is not treating us very well this year.
Everything is cool. I'm happy I get to operate in my element.
Hey, as long as it's a good way to cope, you know what I mean? But I want to take you back, Sugar, when, stuff was a lot easier for everybody in the world. But I gotta ask you, what actually made you decide to get into the music industry from the beginning?
Well, just to reiterate about what I do naturally in my element that's what I do is I inspire people and I help people cope. You know what I mean? Um, as an expert, a transformation, personal development, and life skills expert. That's kind of what I do. So it gave me a chance to really continue to move in the way that I moved during this pandemic more than ever, and be appreciated more than ever.
And
Yeah.
one thing I do got to ask as well, because you were known as one of the one of the female hip hop pioneers out in the Bay. I have to ask you, how does it feel to know that you were one of the first females to really make it out of your city?
It's cool. It's interesting. To see people who are coming after us years later, starting in 1984, and then 20 albums, 36 years later, seeing others follow that trend. It's an interesting and unique element, and it's definitely a blessing to be around this long and to see it and still be relevant and still pumping, at the same time.
And I got to say, we've been spinning your brand new record here on the radio station. I got to say, Suga-T, it's almost like, you know what I mean, you just started, man. You know what I mean? It's phenomenal. Like, you still have that amazing music and amazing sound that you had all those years ago.
Well, thank you. I appreciate that. I really do, and that's what I'm excited about. Is still being able to pump it out and experience others who followed the trend, and still being able to to keep that thing going and to let people know that just because you may be considered an older in the game, that you don't have to stop. So I'm fighting that element to make sure that I represent for the generation, that's been here quite a while longer than the new generation in this game, and being able to, let people know we got to keep pushing. We can't just let them shove us out the box.
And also, as we already know, you are a founding member of the hip-hop group The Click, along with your brothers E40, D-Shot, and your cousin Be Legit. But I have to ask you, what made you guys actually get together and form The Click? What's the story behind that iconic hip-hop group?
Well, that's a good question. Pretty much, it started at one point, just being able to, as a family, just doing everything together as a family. Me, my brother E40, my brother D-Shot, my cousin Be Legit, we always hung out, and I was always the one, that was there, but they always liked it to keep me busy to stay out the way. So a part of that was, doing things with them, and one of them just so happened to be music. We did many things together as a family, played sports, we, experienced the good, the bad, and the ugly, moved around a little bit and had quite a bit of different experiences, but then music was something that kept me out of trouble, and they gave me that once they seen where I could possibly be headed to. They gave me the music to keep me out of trouble and give me something else to do as I was headed to destruction already, being a mother. Early 16, I became a mom, in 1 year at 17, and then straying off into the wilderness of all kind of things that was out there and that was available for me to get into. That was what did it. I was here, stay busy, just write a rap, be still, and sit down somewhere. Mm-hmm.
It must have been really
So
cool
here,
as well to be able to travel with your family as a hip-hop group, you know what I mean? Most people, they just get together once a year family-wise, and you guys were together probably 365.
yeah, definitely at that time we were. We were definitely, and that's the value in working with family. Is when you can do that, you always have something in common that you can come back to, even if you go apart.
And before we move off the topic of The Click, if you don't mind me asking, do you guys have any new projects that you're currently working on? Is there going to be a Click reunion at some point?
We're working that up now. We're definitely getting ourselves in gear and in position so we can take advantage of making sure that people are clear, of our legacy and, those who helped trailblaze, for those who are connected to the movement today. And we definitely will be bringing something out shortly. So stay tuned. But in the meanwhile, people can actually listen to the information. They can listen to our music on we have a quick song on Be Legit and E40's album, and then we also have a quick song on the other latest project, which is the movie project that my brother D-Shot produced, which is called What Are the Chances? So if people want to get acclimated and get back familiar with the movement, that's where they can go, that's where they go to, you know what I mean, for them to be able to listen to some of the latest quick music.
And also, taking you back to 1993, you actually released your debut solo album titled It's All Good. I have to ask you, what's the story and inspiration behind that phenomenal record? Because that's personally one of my favorites of yours.
Well, thank you. It's all good. I was young and wild and fun. I love to have fun. I was young and wild and fun. That's what it was about, and it was a time where it was about fun. When hip-hop was fun, it wasn't just about ego. It wasn't just about, it was a different message. It wasn't just sex, money, alcohol, drugs, violence, stripping, and it was having fun. And that's what the It's All Good album was about. It had a little bit of teaching in it. I was always conscious, somewhat of an activist for change, and that was allowed me to express that and also to express, what was around me at that time and some of the things that I've seen. So it was a banger. That was basically the third. I think that was my third production, actually. We did a couple of them before then. So 1984. So It's All Good came about 1986.
And I gotta say as well, my favorite song actually on that record is actually "Living for the Weekend." I gotta say that song is always a feel good track to me.
You got a good choice.
Hey, you know what? I'm just a sucker for old school hip hop. So you know what I mean. When I hear stuff like that, it always brings me back to a simpler time in life.
Yeah, you know what? I feel the same way you feel. You couldn't say it no plainer. It always brings you back to a simpler time in life. Before we even knew what we were going to get ourselves into and how long we had to be an adult.
It's weird. I'm just going to be honest. If I can go back 10 years from now and tell myself that I'm going to be interviewing the individual that I'm listening to, I'd be like, man, you're crazy. Get out of my bedroom.
Right? I tell you, if I would have known that I would still be here making bangers and 30 years later, still in here, 36 years actually, because we started in 1984, but I would have never, ever thought that I would still be here making music and doing all that I've been able to accomplish outside of just music, here later. 6 grandkids, you look in the mirror, I still look 25. I feel, mentally, I feel, every bit of the almost 4 decades, but physically and visually, and creative-wise, it's like I just started writing and pushing yesterday, but with responsibility. You know what I mean?
And also, yourself and your brother's E40, you and your brother E40's multi-platinum hit song, Sprinkle Me, is actually in the Guinness Book of World Records for being the biggest grossing brother and sister hip-hop single in U.S. history. I have to ask you, how does it feel to actually be in the Guinness Book of World Records? And, where were you when you actually got the call saying that they want to put you in that book?
Well, it's definitely a Guinness-friendly record, and we are excited to be able to hold that title. So at one point there will be an official announcement, and it's definitely an honor just knowing that we made history, and up to all these different years that Sprinkle Me will be such a long-standing song, made as a brother and sister, hip-hop duet, and, able to have this kind of longevity and love and support from the community and from the many people that, helped make it that way, and for those who have recognized it. So we'll be making that announcement very soon.
And after all these years, if you don't mind me asking, how many times did that single actually go platinum? Currently right now?
Definitely twice, and probably underground-wise, it probably it probably went about 4 or 5, but definitely twice so far.
And also in the year 2000, you actually starred in the movie Obstacles. I have to ask you, what was it like doing that movie? And of course, how did you actually get into the acting side of the entertainment industry?
You know what? My brother believed in me first. It was my brother. Actually, someone was filming in San Francisco. Farah Dews. He's a producer up to date, and he makes small productions and do a very meaningful job with them. He believed in my talent before I knew I had talent, and he asked me to act in the movie. So in him asking me to act in the movie, I gave him my first taste of a movie. Then I ended up getting asked to do narrations, which, at the time didn't understand that that's what it was. And, I managed to utilize the platform to do narrations. Then next thing you know, I was asked to act in my brother's movie. My brother D-Shot, he said, "Hey, sis, we got a script for you. You want to act in this movie? I think you'll be good." And I don't even know if he thought I could act, but he believed in me. And we ended up acting in the movie Obstacles, and the movie did very well. It played on BT for a long time, and then eventually it ended up, on all different other platforms. And then next thing you know, I was called from somebody at MTV Lyricist Lounge Show. He was a guy that owned a magazine, and he said, "Hey, Sugar, they're looking for some rappers, out here in LA on the show called the MTV Lyricist Lounge Show. You should go out there and try. I'm going to call the people and tell them I'm about to send you up there." And the group was from New York, and the guy was from New York. His name was Joe. He was from New York, and he ended owning a magazine at the time, and he ended up contacted me and told me about it, and I took advantage of it and jumped on didn't have no clue that it was going to really happen. I was thinking I was going out there just for the moment, and it was just going to be one part, and I was going to act that day and then leave if I got the part. But I did the casting with Claude Brooks, who so graciously hired me in the MTV Lyricist Lounge show crew, and they managed to call me back as soon as I interviewed and left. They called me back and was like, "We need you to come back." So here I'm in the Bay, Northern California. It's a 6-hour drive, 5-6-hour drive to get to LA, a 45-minute plane ride. So I drove there and turned back around and went back out there after coming home for a few hours and turned back around and said, "Wow, they want me back." So I was back there on the show, thinking it was going to be a one-time presentation, but it ended up being a full-time job where I was there on every show, the whole decade, the whole season, and the whole time I ended up writing, acting, performing, being a regular guest star, doing voiceovers, and a major part of the production on the first season that was extremely successful. And that's how I ended up on the show, and what really got me the part was me popping my gum. So I used to pop my gum real heavy. I loved popping it, and in popping it excited them, and they were like, "Okay, you got it. We want you to do the part, and make sure you pop your gum." So my character as a comedian and at the same time a rapper that was able to entertain at the same time and act and write all together ended up giving me that part on the MTV Lyricist Lounge Show. So I stayed the whole first season, and then the following season they wanted to try a more East Coast crew, and the show didn't last because they didn't get numbers. So they should have kept me, and they probably would have stayed up. But bottom line is, we rocked it out, and made it pop. For the time that we were on there for that first season, it was very successful. Then, of course, later through the years, I ended up getting all kind of movie offers of different types of plays and parts. And just recently, I just did another one called "What Are the Chances?" and have been invited into another movie here recently that will be being filmed in January.
And with the TV show and whatnot, like the old saying goes, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. And unfortunately, Hollywood has a knack for doing stuff like that. So, but you know what? I look at it as it's their loss. They probably could have had quite a few more seasons. They would have kept you.
I agree, definitely. And I stuck around. I was hoping they was going to get me back on that second run, but they wanted to change. I'm not sure if it was actually Hollywood. I think it was more of the crew because, they wanted to bring their friends on because they were a New York crew, but they weren't, I guess I had a brand, not I guess, but I know my brand was really big at that time, and I guess the rest of the people that were, on there, their brands weren't. So as we, were basically used to help brand the show, they wanted to bring in another crew and allow them to shine, because those were their homeboys. So, and homegirls. So I guess, you know how that goes, that privilege thing. But the privilege thing got the show dropped. So, so that was a true meaning behind it. But I was thankful just for the first season and them believing in me and allowing me to have that chance, and I'm sure that they probably think about this every day and want to kick themselves in the butt.
And also, jumping ahead a little bit, in 2006, you actually did some work for Psycho Gangsta's album Ballin For Life on the song Reality, where you actually did some backing vocals and also co-wrote it with legendary Bay Area hip-hop artist Rapidemic. I have to ask you, what was it like working on Psycho's record and, of course, co-writing that track with Rapidemic?
You know what? It was awesome. I did, oh my gosh, so many songs, features and writing, and it's just always an honor when they want me to be on it and, and say, hey, could you, put something together? So I think that was like the beginning of me being able to hold down, producing, to actually realize that I was a great writer and a great producer, because at the time I just thought it was a second nature just to throw something together. I really didn't know how strong of a writer I was, but it was definitely the beginning of, really showcasing powerful writing skills up to date. And, I think that was a part of sowing the seed, of me loving to write and continuously, where features weren't as popular at the time, I was able to do features far before, everybody found out about features, and today they say, feature. It's like a fad now, but it's a fad that was a original, thing for us, 30 years ago. So that was one of those other features where we were able to get our verse money and also inspire the people.
And also, you were the founder of Sprinkle Me Enterprise and also Sprinkle Me School of Music. I was wondering if you tell us a bit more about that, and of course, what actually made you decide to start up both of those companies?
Well, Sprinkle Me Social Enterprise, it didn't start off as a full-out enterprise. It actually started off at the beginning just in entertainment. And 8 years old, I started a business with my grandfather. So I sold newspapers, threw newspapers with him, rocked them, drove the car when he was running late at 8 years old. And eventually he gave me my first business experience. So going into that as a way that he sowed a seed, eventually I got another chance to do some business venture by selling newspapers, and I was, very successful at it at 11 years old, working, selling newspapers, and they treated us like it was our own business because they taught us how to fill out our paperwork and put things in order and so on and so forth. So then, following that, I decided, I was dibbling dabbling doing hair, so I started a hair business. In my hair business at 15, it was like a donation opportunity. I was, pretty much using public services because I was a mother already, and in that, it put me in a position where I could, provide a service and get donations for my work to do hair, and I called myself a mobile weave queen. So then following that was me being adopted into my brother's record label and me helping build it, Secret Records, to keep me busy and to use some of my professional skills and to be taught how to coach and executive produce versus just showing up as an artist, because they wanted me to hold it down myself. So in that, I was able to, accumulate a variety of skills, and I ended up adding just, different types of other elements to the record label through my own circulation of creating products, merchandise, marketing, promotion, branding, and then eventually I just started adding different types of services, and eventually I started opening companies, and that all complemented one another. And here today, there's just a variety of divisions that were worked up through the years that the enterprise actually holds, as a holding company. And they all operate and have been, very instrumental to me being able to hold down my fort and still stay in my own lane and not have to fall into the things that changed and that became detrimental to the music industry, while giving me a chance to still raise my daughters and not have to abandon them during times I would never get back, alongside of adding other things that created me to be a much more valuable entity than just rap music or, entertainment. You know what I mean? So it gave me a well-rounded experience by having another thing to depend on and to build, throughout the years. And that's how the Sprinkle Me Social Enterprise. I wanted to be someone that helps in business, so I created myself into socially professional endeavors. Every part of that enterprise, it holds different services and projects and products. And so, the organization we have under the enterprise, a fragrance and production company that was started through my a very detrimental time in my life where I was going through a divorce, and I'm trying to figure out a way, some reinvention elements of trying to reposition myself, and then that came about and became an inspiration by having the fragrance company as something else to rely on until I figured out how I wanted to position myself in music again, reposition myself in music, and it also gave me a chance to still stick around, the house and run a business, outside of just music, and to reach other women and hope to inspire them so that they can have a chance of survival and not fall into the cracks because they can't take care of themselves. So it's an empowerment fragrance company with different elements to it: production, wholesale, retail, distribution, and we have a social entity to it where we help women have economic empowerment opportunities and give them work experience, as well as we provide them with ways to make money and place them in employment. And so outside of that, we have another division, which is the music company, Suga-T Music, and of course that started back in the day, publishing books, publishing music, publishing songs, writing songs. We have, of course, a division of producing albums and media. And so the branding, media, film, different types of elements in that particular division. And then we have another division which is a part of a totally separated. It's a school, online school. It's Sprinkle Me Learning Academy. So we there host a Sprinkle Me School in Music and Vision. We host a variety of skills-building classes and enrichment courses and life skills and self-development services and trainings and things of that nature that we provide to the general public. And we also have our own clientele that we serve throughout the years to help them enlighten their clients. Then, of course, we have another division which is totally outside of our profit. It's a nonprofit that we support, which is called the Work It Project. And what we do is our main services. We help keep people from falling through the cracks. And we have a whole system that's created to provide opportunities to help keep people healthy, safe, and empowered, inspired, and economically empowered. And our mission is to meet them where they are while helping them explore what they could become and try to help keep them as well as organizations from falling through the cracks. So in that, the whole enterprise was built throughout the years. It wasn't an overnight building. And the business model has just been to be able to, whatever we do, we want to help people grow so we don't have to separate ourselves.
And also, I noticed as well that you were actually honored by Queen Latifah and VH1 Female Honors as a West Coast pioneer. I have to ask you, what was that experience like, actually being honored by the legendary Queen Latifah?
It was definitely a blessing. I thought it was a joke at first when she called, when they called and told them that they wanted me to be a part of her event with VH1, and the goal was, it was to position, a way for her to show her appreciation for how we influenced her through the years, and I thought it was something that was working towards what they were doing, but for her. But it was her honoring us and making sure that we were visible and people knew, that we were around and what we contributed to hip-hop. So I was very grateful and thankful and very appreciative that she was respectful. And, with a day like this where they're trying to kick an older generation of women like myself under the bus, to make us feel like we are not relevant because we're not interested in carrying out the same type of conversations that the new artists have tended to pick up. It was respectfully, she made sure we were respected, appreciated. showcased and had a chance, to shine and to be presented in our rightful place of helping provide this platform for these new generation of artists and let people know that we were around still. And so that was something that went down in history. It was respectful. It was an honor to be brought up on stage and showcased, and definitely with all the other ladies that also got their flowers. And it was quite an interesting moment and a very life gratifying and needed moment for all of us who are in the older generation of women who still got it, but continuously get covered up by those who are trying to have created a culture of hip hop only being a young girl's game.
And I do want to say quickly as well that I think that is absolutely shameful as well that they would actually do something like that, because I'm going to be honest, an individual like yourself, Suga-T, you could actually like wrap circles around a lot of these young female artists, and I don't want to take nothing from them. I just want to speak facts here, because I'm not a fan of the like old skinny jean mumble rap type stuff. Your generation of music and what you created most definitely is what defines real hip hop in my personal opinion.
Well, thank you. I appreciate that. And, it's interesting because the systematic racism they've created a whole other culture out of this thing. And like you said, nothing to take away from the younger artists, but, the younger artists are not doing anything different than what we all already did. They're all just basically recycled talent that's bringing out basically one conversation, so it makes it, appear as if they own that brand, and it's really not new. It's basically old, and they're just running it to the ground. And the younger generation, hear it. And so if the younger generation didn't have the privilege and the pleasure of us who have, done this stuff, got platinum albums, golds, and, kept our presence through the year, if they didn't have be blessed enough to hear it from their mother or their grandmother, then they just assume that this is the only thing that's out there and that it just crept up, So, and it's definitely a place for it, but it's just, kind of unfair how they got it off balance where, they just push the youngers and they just kind of throw the olders under the bus, and if we're not interested in, in having one type of conversation, only talk about one thing, sex, money, alcohol, drugs, violence, stripping, and bullying, and bragging on ourselves, we have so many other things to talk about, then they kind of, put us as secondary and don't support us. So it's pretty bad how things have changed over the years. It's pretty disappointing because, they've made a culture of males who now have made it where you got to be endorsed by a male or you have to strip, or take your clothes off or, act like a boy in order to really get heard as a female rapper. And it's not fair, and it's supremacy and it's systematic racism towards the older woman, because it really has made all of us have a much, much rougher time and have to work 10 times harder and get paid 10 times lesser, because of this.
And also, recently, you actually dropped the Rapidemic. I have to ask you, what is the inspiration behind your brand new album? And of course, where can our listeners actually buy or stream themselves a copy today?
Definitely. You can go to sprinkleme.biz, sprinkleme.biz, B-I-Z, again, and you can get the Rapidemic, a quick download of it, or you can stream it in any digital outlet as well. And the motivation behind Rapidemic was just what I just said earlier in the conversation. They made it, during the pandemic, I was going to release it and call it a different name. It's my 20th album, over 30-year anniversary. So I was going to call it a different name. But then when the pandemic hit and I seen the different elements of the pandemic, I was like, you know what? These people, I had to come to the balance and the conclusion that they've made the hip-hop world a pandemic. It's been a pandemic before the pandemic. So I'm going to call the album Rapidemic and make it into a campaign to have these conversations, because these conversations about hip-hop and how it's changed and, how the message and the aura around it and the narrative and the culture, what it is being today and how it's affecting the older generation of females who have helped pave the way and created a trailblazing blueprint for the opportunities for the females today. And it's detrimental to the younger females, because if this doesn't stop, they're going to get thrown under the bus too, and when they get older. And there has to be a respect from the younger generation of females as well. And for those who support them, they should encourage and empower them to be, more respectful and not, just get behind. Everybody got their agendas of getting behind what they get behind. So, it just created a balance. So I want to have these conversations and just, enlighten, those who feel the same way I do, those who need to spark older generations, inside and out of the music and entertainment business. Don't let nobody take your space. Fight for it. We just have to stand up and lead and be okay with being in our own lane. Because if we continue to fall prey into this mindset and this culture, of letting go of the elders of the game of entertainment or in the communities, then we're not going to have no real seasoned, elements going on. And this balance is going to be, worse as it's getting worse because of that. So it creates so many different outlooks on, on the community as well as in the entertainment business. You got this type of mentality being positioned for the community, which makes the older generation of the community want to fight for their spot. And then you have the younger generation want to kick us out the space and not partner with us, but want to knock us out the box. And then they crash and burn and mess everything up because there's just no way you can equate, experience to a book. I don't care how much education they have. If it's a book with no experience, it doesn't mean anything. If it's fame and financial freedom, that doesn't make them smart or wise. It just doesn't make them, be more valuable than us, except for by finances, which, if that's what you live by, is who's financially, successful, and that's all you look at, then that's very detrimental. So there's a lot of layers of, of mindsets that we need to deprogram from. So the Rapidemic is about deprogramming and putting the conversation out there. One, making sure my history is heard and known, and encouraging others who are in my element inside and out of the music business. Speak up for yours, stand your ground, hold your post, you know what I mean? And then, secondly, to make sure I give a good, well-rounded presentation of my creativity and messages, showcasing my journey, my well-rounded ability to still write after 36 years, to still record, to still do music, and utilize that opportunity, to celebrate the 20th album in over 36 years in this game. You know what I mean? So to get people to get to know me, for those who don't, they can do real history and find out that I have been around this long, and they can see where the seed was sown for the artists today, for those who can do history. So that's what the Rapidemic is about. And the album is, as you see, I've really, put my heart into it and just love every song on there. And I didn't make it for people to say, oh, I want everybody to buy it and love me. I made it because I like it. And for those who want to, rock with me, they want some real, they want to see my journey, they want a well-rounded experience outside of just what's been shoved in their face, which is basically the continuous distribution of sex, money, alcohol, drugs, violence, stripping, bullying, and bragging, then they might not like it. But if they want something new, something fresh, something real, then they'll holler at the Rapidemic and they'll be a part of the campaign, you know what I mean, and tack on to the movement.
And I gotta ask you, Suga-T, do you have any hard copies available for the old school listeners that really do love compact disc format? Because I know some of my listeners are like, yo, you better ask. Because I have a few artists I had on Suga-T, I actually asked them. I didn't ask them if they had hard copies, and my audience actually, you know what I mean, got upset with me. So I always tend to ask if individuals have hard copies.
Sure, that's a really good question because actually I am ordering that right now because I've had so many people that's asking me to sell them. So I'm like, okay, I'll sell them to you wholesale. These are people, regular consumers. So I'm excited about that. So we will definitely have hard copies available within the next week and a half.
And I gotta ask you, Suga-T, what is next for you? Is there anything I happen to miss during this interview? Anything else you still want to promote and actually let our live audience know? We still have you here, live on Outlaw Radio FM.
Well, you know what? I just thank you guys for thinking about me and, giving me my flowers. And it's just not about me. It's more so about people, and this element and this conditioning, in our world today of how we can forget about, our foundation, about elders, how we can affect people with our behavior and with our ignorance. And I want people to start doing, more research. I want people to stop, kicking people under the bus, because there are some very unhealthy people out here who are dealing with some real off-balance challenges because of this new mentality of, all these layers that we're speaking on. So I want people to be well, and at the end of the day, people getting the Rapidemic, you can follow me, the movement, the campaign. I have a couple of radio show outlets that will be shortly released. The Suga-T show, giving you the insight that Big Mama would have gave you. And then I have Queen's View Rap Table Report, that talked about, different matters that are very important, matters in hip-hop, matters, that consequences as well as conclusions and solutions. And, getting people, familiar with the Bay Area and talent over here in North, because a lot of times these people, I don't know who these media people are and these outlets that continue to forget about Northern California and all that we've contributed, to the game of music and in many different other ways. So we have a Bay Area hype segment in that show, trying to just give people history and educate them on where we're at. And often I'm often left off the list. I see these lingering lists about the best artists, the best females, and the top females. And, so I said, you know what, I'm going to build my own outlet out and put my own self on the list, because I don't know how they end up missing that. So just to kind of have another outlet for people who actually do their research and actually know what's going on, and actually, don't forget about people, and where they came from and what they contributed. So, that's kind of all that I want to know. I have, of course, a new campaign. I got the Flowers video that's out. The Flowers video is hot, it's banging. People, I think, can enjoy that. And then, of course, there's going to be a multiple more amount of, information and music and educational platforms that, people can all connect with. And, of course, I just want to say to the people, don't just think about yourself. Think about other people today. There's some real serious populations out here that are suffering, and they need some attention. So, if you're that kind of person and you enjoy, the part of change and, social justice, change, and empowering others, and you want to lead and want to know, what your purpose is, then, follow me. Follow me at Suga-T, Instagram, Facebook, YouTube, and I can help you deprogram yourself, and be a part of the enterprise and a part of the Rapidemic campaign.
And I gotta say, first and foremost, Suga-T, thank you so much for the years upon years of amazing music. It was an absolute honor to be able to welcome you on my platform and just have the opportunity to chop it up with you for about a half hour. It was an honor, and thank you so much.
Thank you, and I appreciate you, and please keep up the good work, okay?
I most definitely will try. As long as there's internet connection and my heart's still beating, I'm most definitely going to keep putting in work for real hip-hop.
All right.
Thank you so much, Sugar. You have yourself a wonderful night.
Thank you. You as well. Peace and blessings.